What is that? I know what that is. That's playoffs. We got our first whiff of playoff action in Eastern Massachusetts this weekend when the Tri-Valley League kicked off its own playoffs as Medway Norton, Hollis, and Westwood clashed for the TVL crown. Teams are getting really close to securing league titles, and Thanksgiving's just around the corner. I'm Chad Finn. You're watching The Huddle. Let's get right to the highlights. Medway and Norton opened up the Tri-Valley League semifinals at Westwood High School as both teams went into the matchup 7-1. Norton jumped on Medway first, getting a 20-yard touchdown pass from Joe Wilkes to Phil Rizzo after the bobble and tip from another receiver. Then Norton's Brendan Curtin took the halfback pass from Zach Schweiger for a 40-yard score. Norton finished the half up 12-7. But Medway stormed back, getting an 11-yard touchdown run from Greg Amato and then another 2-yarder from Mike Ozella. Ozella finished with 171 yards and 2 touchdowns as Medway came back from a 12-0 deficit to win 28-18. In the second pairing of the Tri-Valley League playoffs, the Holliston Panthers blew past host Westwood 35-0. Holliston running back Jake Frechette ran for 3 touchdowns and caught another to put his team in the TVL final, a rematch of Holliston's 28-16 loss to Medway. Again, Holliston 35, Westwood 0. That wasn't the only big action going on in Westwood. Xaverian hosted BC High in the annual heavyweight bout with the Hawks steamrolling past the Eagles. Xaverian's Chris Calvanese threw a pair of touchdowns, including the spectacular grab by Tommy Jenkins. He also ran for another as the Hawks blanked BC High 28-0. Dave Conroy caught a 15-yard touchdown pass from Troy Salvatore as Walpole cruised to a 47-17 victory over Framingham in the Bay State Conference. North Andover's Brandon Walsh threw 2 touchdowns as the Knights beat Wilmington 17-7 in Cape Ann Large action. Brighton continued its hot streak in the Boston South, stomping Latin Academy 36-0 behind a pair of touchdowns from quarterback Jonathan Marrero. I'm joined as always by our high school sports guru, Bob Holmes. He insists on me calling him a guru. I do it because I'm a team guy. Bob, before we move ahead to week 10, let's take a look back on week 9, some of the interesting things that happened Saturday and Sunday, Friday.
Yeah, you know, I bought the calculator too because this is going to be helpful.
Props.
Got to have them. There's 8 divisions, 31 leagues. Last week, 5 teams clinched playoff berths. So heading into the final weekend of the regular season, that means 26, I went to BC, I'm sorry, 26 different leagues are probably going to be either deciding or taking a huge step this weekend. And beyond that, there's also the prep school bowls that will be decided this Saturday in their games, and they will play their bowls the following week. That's
a beautiful segue right there. Yeah. Let's take a look at BB&N and Lawrence Academy. Lawrence Academy has been in the headlines a lot this season. The forfeit with St. George's and a real powerhouse team. Is this a good matchup for them, an equal matchup?
Well, until last weekend, you would have thought that this was going to be another rout. BB&N, even though they're undefeated, has struggled a little bit this past season, having a couple of near-miss games. Lawrence Academy has been blowing everybody out until last weekend, where they just barely beat Belmont Hills 7-6, thanks to a blocked field goal attempt in the 4th quarter.
Is that a harbinger of something maybe with them, or is it just kind of a little bit of a hiccup in terms of their performance?
Yeah, you know, if I didn't know better, I'd say they were doing their best to keep the score close because they've got a lot of controversy, as you mentioned, surrounding them this season, that they were beating up on other teams. What better way to look competitive than to have a close game, which they did last week?
Yeah, you and your suspicious minds and conspiracy theories.
I know.
That's why we bring in Bob Holmes for his conspiracy theories and, of course, his insights. When we see you again, we should have a clearer picture of the playoffs and a look at some pretty interesting Thanksgiving Day matchups. Don't forget to subscribe to our show on iTunes, and for all the latest on Eastern Mass football, go to boston.com/schools. He's Bob Holmes. He knows everything. I'm Chad Finn. I know a little bit. Stay out of the rain.